Hey guys, that's Sleepy Girl here, and welcome to episode 1 of Sandbox Fun. This is where I'm going to be trying to recreate this Starbucks. So it's a more modern looking Starbucks, I find. So we're going to start with basically trying to find our materials that we're going to be using to match that image. So I start off with the dry stone. I kind of had an idea that that's what I wanted to use. I feel like it's what matched best in the photo. It's very similar. The only thing is in the picture it's more of a beige than a gray, but the actual texture seems pretty similar. So it took me a little bit just to figure out what pillars I wanted to use. The ones that are the dry stone pillars are much too large for the size of the building I was going for. I could have used them, however I would have had to make the entire building about 4 to 5 times larger than what I did. So I just went with the smaller curb-like stone, and I felt that that matched enough in the image to be able to go on. Now I couldn't find anything that had the texture for the black portion of the walls, and so I went with the plaster, and then you'll see in a little bit I'm add like a wood grain to it with the planks. Now the reason why I didn't just do the planks and I actually put the plaster down first was so that I had a base for it, and I knew exactly where I wanted to go so that I could keep it within actual wall sizing. Now I put down my Starbucks pixel art pack, and I realized that the Starbucks logo pixel art that I had made was much too small for where it was going on this particular building. So I decided to go ahead and make another one that was much larger. So I'm going to be updating the Starbucks pixel art pack to include both of those logos on the workshop. And so if you already have it, and you want the larger one, you can just go ahead and unsubscribe and then subscribe to it, and then you'll have the larger one included in your blueprint. Now I really enjoy doing the pixel art. I find it very relaxing and soothing, and it just kind of makes a change of pace from building or working on the animals and stuff. And I'm really enjoying seeing everyone sharing their pictures of the pixel art since I posted the tutorial. So we take a little bit of time to do this. A few other things just to mention is that this is going to be a series where I make one-off builds or buildings that I have ideas for that I just don't have a particular spot in any of my zoos to put at this moment in time. But these are all buildings that I do want to be using. And so this Starbucks will definitely be going into Shanti Park once my franchise is up and money again. This will definitely be something that we're going to be adding to that park as well. It's just I'm not ready for it at this time, but it was in my head and I wanted to get it out. So I went ahead and did the build right away. Also, in the inspiration image, you're going to see there's a Verizon store on the one side, and the building does go on the left. We just don't know what it is. This is part 1 of this build. So I'm posting the Starbucks now. I will be creating at least 2 more buildings that you'll have the ability to attach to it to create that larger, more plaza-ish type building. So that will be coming in the future. I'm just not 100% sure if we're gonna go with some more real life stores like the Starbucks, or if it's just gonna be like information or whatnot. I haven't decided yet, but we will be extending this building a little bit. And so you can look forward to that to come as well. So the Starbucks logo is almost done. We just have to remove the excess pixels from the pixel board. Now the pixel board as well is on my workshop, and also most of what you're going to see here today is going to be on the workshop as well. There's a few things that I've included with this blueprint, so you can look forward to that as well. So now that the new larger pixel art Starbucks logo is done, we can go ahead and put it on the building. Now when I put it back, I realized that I had made it a little too tall. just for the size of the pixel art, what it ended up being. So we go ahead and shrink that up a little bit, and we put the roof back down. Now this larger square piece of the roof, I'm not fully sold on it at the moment. I like the size, I like the placement, like I know it, it looks right. I'm just not fond of the texture as well as the color as of yet, and so we are going to go ahead and fix that later on. I didn't know what I wanted, and so instead of just dwelling on it for hours at a time, I went ahead and placed something so that we had a place marker, and then we're going to go ahead and fix that afterwards. So you'll see, to try and match the top, I went and was going to replace the dry stone with the breeze block, but I really just didn't like the texture of the breeze block. I felt the stone matched the inspiration much better, so I revert back to the stone and decide that we'll work on the rooftop afterwards. So as you saw, I used a flat plank to cover the black plaster, and I think it really looks good. I think it matches enough the texture that you see in the inspiration picture. Now the New World awning that you saw me take out, I actually really liked it, and I was just going to cover up the glass. However, it was much too small for the area, and I'm really trying to recreate this matching the inspiration picture as close as possible. I do end up changing some of the coloring and stuff afterwards, but I do try and match it, and so I felt that awning was just too small. It would look funny over top of the windowed areas, and so I went ahead and created a new one. Basically the same concept as the New World one, just much larger, and then no piece of glass. It's just like fully metal. Now I wasn't sure at first what I was going to use as the wire to like hold up the awning. However, after talking to a few other people and getting some ideas thrown around, I went ahead and used the chain link. Now, once we got to the inside of the building, the chain was much too long, and so it was clipping through the inside. I tried a few different things to try and cover that by lowering the ceiling or adding cement pieces to the to it, or doubling the wall, and nothing really was working that made it have a nice aesthetic on the inside. It kind of just looked off, like something was like it didn't belong. And so I decided to go back and change up the chain, and I found another black piece that actually ended up working very well, and so you'll see that coming. So now looking at it, we basically have the main stuff done for the central part of the build, so that main entrance. Now I did switch things around a little bit. In this first square building, the taller part, the entrance for the Starbucks actually isn't in that. It's just where you see the glass, it's just two large window panels. And then directly, the one that's in the patio has a door, and the to the right of that you have the actual entrance. Now because I wanted to keep this, how do I say that? Keep the Starbucks area in the main part and then add separate buildings to the other side, and I wanted the entrance of the Starbucks to be a focal point. I kind of made the executive decision to move the entrance to this main square area. I just felt like it would fit the build better, especially since we're going to be doing it in parts, and I wanted it to look okay with just the Starbucks and not need the other buildings without looking funny. And so here I'm playing around with the trim at the top. I do like the look of it. However, I do feel like it's a little thin. I just feel like it doesn't match the size of the build. So we're going to go ahead and fix that as well after. And like I'm saying, there's a lot of things that I go ahead and fix in after. I just kind of start, and then as I go figure out, if something needs to be changed, or I see another piece that looks better for something, then I go ahead and change it. And I think that's important when you're doing builds like this, is not to dwell on finding the perfect piece right off the get-go. Get something that's close enough, and then if you do find something else as you're going that you realize, oh, that would suit this area better or that item better, then to go ahead and switch it and not feel down that you're you're not getting anywhere because you're redoing something that you've already done. I think that's important when doing this, especially when you're first starting and you don't know all the pieces. I can't remember them all, and I'm often looking for pieces that don't exist. And so I just feel like if you have the mentality that, you know, things can change, you don't have to find something perfect right off the get-go, then you can, you know, you're going to have an easier time getting through a build, and you're not going to dwell on something, and you can move on to something else in the interim. So one of those things I did is I placed those New World signs down. I had the intention on changing them after. However, after working on this build for so long and looking at it, they kind of grew on me, and so I ended up keeping them. There was a drive-through sign in the inspiration picture, and because it is being in a zoo, I didn't feel that a drive-through sign was appropriate. I did contemplate doing it and adding a small drive-through that would be for like the zookeepers and stuff that they could go through on their Jeeps. However, in the end, I decided that it was a lot more realistic if there was no drive-through. So as you can see, I'm just lining the windows here, and as of right now, I do like the overall shape. However, I do find it's a little small, especially if we're just gonna have the Starbucks at first. To me, at this point, this isn't something that I would put in the zoo. I'm not fond of the overall shape and size, especially with the main piece being so tall. So tall and large. I find the sides they look a little weak. So before continuing the remaining building, like finishing it off, I decide to put the facilities in and figure out how I'm going to do that, so that I don't finish it off and then they don't fit right, or I can't place them the way I wanted to. So I start off by putting two and centering them, and then I was going to double up the walls so that the walls would be black and not stone, but it was really cutting into the space, and so I end up removing that as well. And we do end up going with a 3 wide on the facilities. And I was also struggling to figure out if I wanted to keep that stone section in. So I removed it. I noticed that the chains were sticking out, and so I put it back. And then in the end, we do end up removing it, since we found a better solution for the chains. So as you can see here, I'm extending this wall because I decided that with the restroom facility in there, if I didn't add that extra section, there really wasn't much room to eat, like to put down the tables and stuff for people to eat. So I decided to extend that by 1, and I feel like that really helped with the sizing issue that I was having and how I felt like it was off kilter. Now you'll see here I add 2 more of those logos so that all 4 sides have it. I end up removing those 2 that I just placed because afterwards I did a check and pulled out the calculator, and with the 2 first logos alone on that top section, we were at 3,296 pieces. So obviously at this point I wouldn't have been able to do anything else other than those 2 logos. And I'd have to save it as a building blueprint. So I decided that although I had to save it as a habitat blueprint, that it would be much better if I just remove them, just to not overload on pieces that aren't really necessary. So as you saw, we also went ahead and changed the roof. So I decided to just go with the plaster. I could match the colors that I wanted better because you can pick whatever you want. And I felt that was just a better option. And also, instead of having a floor piece, a 1 meter piece on top of that, and then a floor piece on top of that, I put the 1 meter pieces in with the floor pieces, and so it made it slightly shorter, and I just felt like, again, it just helped with the size issue. So here I'm going to be making a menu sign. So this was kind of the idea I was going with when I created these small pixel art Starbucks drinks, was to make a menu sign. It didn't turn out exactly how I'd initially pictured it when I created these, but just based on the size I had, this is what I was able to create. And I really wanted it to have like that chalkboard look, because I feel like the Starbuckses that I've been in have a very, have that aesthetic to them. There's chalkboards and everything's written in white and stuff, and they have signage, and so that's what I went with. I made it a little smaller than I had initially planned. I just felt like it would fit the area better. And overall, I do like the way that ended up. When I had initially thought it out, I figured that I would be adding pricing beside things, but as you can see, I already had to leave one of the drinks out, and so I just decided that it would be best to leave out the pricing as well so that I could fit the most of those drink pixel arts as possible. Now I was playing around with the smaller Starbucks logo to see if I could make a sign out of it, and I just felt like, it was becoming too much. So I just opted out, and so I don't end up using that smaller sign whatsoever in this build. So now we're working at blocking off the bathroom, and I was trying to figure out the best way to go about making an entrance to it. So I started off with an archway, and then I ended up changing my mind. I just felt like it was too big, too open, and so we go ahead and switch it to the regular door. So fast forward a little bit, add a bunch of time and a lot of details, and here's our end result. So as you can see, we added some details like an AC unit. In the back we have a dumpster, a parking area for staff, as well as a staff entrance. There is no staff room in there, so they're not going to be actually using that area, but I do enjoy doing backstage areas. I feel like it's very realistic. And so here we have the list of workshop items. So we have the Starbucks building itself, the pixel art pack, the I Love Coffee pixel art, the dumpster, as well as the rooftop AC unit. And so you can find all that on the workshop, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Thank you for watching.